everyone, I'm Shannon, writing under the name of SD Huston. I'm the author of the Clash of Goddesses series and now A Curse of Scales and Feathers. And today I just want to share something that I have been playing around with. So those who are familiar with me, you know that I am AI positive and that I view AI as a way to help us as writers. I don't want it to write for me. That would take away all the joy of being a writer. That's not what I'm here for. But I kind of like it as like my brainstorming buddy or my marketing assistant or my email grammar checker. So I use it for quite a few things. Now, recently I have learned about a new platform that I wanted to try out, and that is Gemini 1.5 Pro. I don't know a lot about AI, as in I don't know like what goes into making the AI or all the API keys or all. I'm not real familiar with all these things, but I do like playing around with the different programs. And what was really great about Gemini 1.5 Pro is that it now has a 1 million token context window. Now, again, I don't know all the specifics of how to break it all down or make it make sense. From what I understand, your context window, that is the prompt you're putting into the AI and what it gives back to you. So your prompt plus the response, that is your context window. And there is a limit on that on most platforms. Now, I've been using ChatGPT. I do pay for ChatGPT 4, but there is a limit on the token. And I don't remember off the top of my head what that was, but I think it's around 8,000. So 8,000 versus a million, already huge difference, okay? And then ChatGPT 3.5, I think is limited to around a 4,000 token context window. And what this means is that what you put in and what you expect to get back when you put a prompt into the AI, it can't be very long. So that's not putting very much in there. So for example, for using like ChatGPT, if I write a really long email, it may not all fit into the context window and give me a response that I'm looking for to show me like all my grammar errors or my punctuation that's missing or whatever. So there is a way sometimes you can hit like continue or tell it to continue, and it will continue to give you more feedback in the next context window, which is a little bit longer, but it does start forgetting previous conversations in the same thread, and where that threshold is at, it's different for every platform, but it does start forgetting what you put in there. If you've ever been in one chat on ChatGPT and you put a lot in there, you know, after so many different prompts and answers, it does start forgetting what you put at the very top of the beginning of that chat. So anyways, with a 1 million token context window, you could put a lot in there. Now, what does a token mean exactly for us? I've heard different things. I heard that the number of syllables that are in a word is how many tokens, you know, so if a word is one syllable, it's just one token. But I think probably the best description I've come across that seems to be accurate is that it's about 75% of your word count. So if you got 100 words, it's 75 words is what the window allows. So 1 million, that's roughly 750,000 words you can put in there. Guess what? That's a whole book. And well, right about the time Gemini 1.5 Pro came out, I had just run into a problem in writing my second book in my series, in that I have a character who appears in the first book, appears in the second book, and I was certain that this character was not given an eye color. Like I was, yep, this character did not get an eye color in the first book. So guess what? I'm gonna give her an eye color in this book. Well, at the same time that I'm writing my second book, I am audio recording my chapters from the first book in the series, A Curse of Scales and Feathers. And this is a very slow process because I'm audio recording my own chapters. I'm doing 3 to 5 chapters a month, doing this slow and easy right now, just recording it. That's it. And I haven't even started editing, which is going to take a really long time. But the chapters that I pulled out to record a couple weeks ago, I gave an eye color to that same character. And I didn't remember it. I did not remember that I had an eye color assigned to her. And so I'd already been telling myself, come on, Shannon, get your series Bible put together. You've got to have your series Bible, you know, list of all your characters, list of all the settings, places, all of that. You need all of this information that you've said so that you can say, you know, consistent with eye color or locations and settings. I mean, all this stuff that goes part of making your world, especially if you're a fantasy or a sci-fi reader. But even if you're not a fantasy or sci-fi reader, if you are writing contemporary fiction, I mean, you still have to remember what eye color or hair color or whatever it is that you assign to your characters. So you want to make sure that you are staying consistent to all this. And so I've been telling myself, I got to get on the ball. I got to make the series Bible so I can keep things straight. And I was like, oh my goodness, that's going to take forever. to do it. I talk about 141,000 plus words I was going to have to go through to make notes on characters and locations and settings and magical properties and all this stuff. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is going to take forever. And then Gemini 1.5 Pro came out. I was like, yay, I could put my whole book in there. Okay, caveat, guys, do not do this if you do not want any of the AI's training off of your information. So whatever you put into the AI, in most cases, there are some AIs that don't do this, but whatever you put in there, they're going to train off of your data. So if you're putting your whole book in there like I did, then it's training off of your book. I don't really care. For me, it doesn't matter to me. I don't think that anyone's ever going to be able to write the same as me, as I feel that I can't write the same as anybody else. And if they want to train off my data, okay. If I end up being the worst writer in the world, then they're going to have some pretty bad data. But anyways, I'll put my whole book in there. But I started off in ChatGPT and I went through a whole process of what I did. And I have already started doing this. I started with my characters and A Curse of Scales and Feathers. And I've got my characters pulled out. I've got a bunch of stuff already done, got things lined up. Started my series Bible. It's finally going. And I'm working on locations and things like that now. But I thought, you know what? Let me show you guys how I did this from beginning to end in case if you want to do it too. And please feel free to take anything I say as far as prompting or whatever to use for your own, adapt it to what you want to do. At the same time, I am not positioning myself as the best prompt maker because I am not. I am just playing around with prompts. I've been doing lots of different things to try what will work and what might not work. So what I do may not work the same if you've got something better that you know how to do. Anyways, I'll show you guys. I'm gonna walk through. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do it for my characters again, but I'm going to do for the novella that's also part of the same series in a way. It's not really part of the series. It's a prequel novella, so it comes before the series, but it can be read as a standalone. It doesn't need to be read to understand anything in the series. So in a way, it's just kind of its own standalone novella in my world where I plan to write more and more books and series. So I thought, well, let me do it on this and I can show you guys. And keep in mind, guys, it's AI. It is supposed to be artificial intelligence. It's not really all that intelligent. So what you put in there, you do need to go over it. Don't just accept what gives back to you, what the response is, because it's not always right. I found this out with my first book, A Curse of Scales and Feathers. I have two Fae, an Earth Fae and a Fire Fae. They are both in similar circumstances at the beginning of the book. They were friends. They even were housed together in their circumstances, but pretty quickly in the beginning of the book, they have divergence in their path, but then they do get back together again. And so I can understand why maybe this might have happened, but the AI did mix up some of their attributes, and mainly when it came to dialogue. I wanted the AI to try and pull out dialogue from all my characters that seemed to be something that was unique to them, something that they said, and that prompt didn't actually work very well for that. So there was a whole reason why I decided to do that. I like the idea that characters have like their own unique way of saying things, and it doesn't have to be like every single dialogue line. And this is advice I heard from a podcast a while ago, and I really liked it, which is like, each of your characters should have like their own word or their own phrase they often say that no other character says. And that way, when your readers come across that phrase or that word, they know which character it is who's saying that. So it's a way of characterizing your characters through their dialogue. And it's something I've always wanted to do. And I was like, did I do this? I didn't like purposely go on my way and say, this is the dialogue that's going to happen for each of my characters. But I really want them to have like their own thing that they were saying. And so I thought maybe putting that as part of my prompts with my characters would help me pull out something that was specific to each of those characters. And that's exactly where the AI messed up, because it gave some of the dialogue lines to one Fae, and when it belonged to the other Fae, and vice versa, it mixed up the dialogue lines. So definitely you want to read over what it gives you back. But you know what? I still prefer this method over me having to go back through and read through 141,000 plus words and stop every time there is something I need to note. So I like this. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and walk you guys through with my novella, which is The Sunstone and the Hybrid Prince. Go through the whole process, and hopefully this will be helpful for some of you guys. It might not be, but I know that some people were wondering how I did this with AI, so this video is for you guys. All right, first we're gonna start here in ChatGPT. And the first thing I'm gonna do that I did not do at the beginning of my process with A Curse of Scales and Feathers was to get an exhaustive character list. I realized that after I figured out my character analysis that it could only do so much at a time. And I thought, well, I probably should start with an exhaustive character list so that I knew what characters to prompt the AI with. I'm gonna show you guys how I do it. And one of the main things that I hear a lot of people who work with AI and they create prompts, a lot of things that I've heard over and over again was, if you don't know what you should know, just ask the AI what you should know. Sounds maybe convoluted, but let me just show you, for instance. So in this case, I want to start with ChatGPT, and this is where I'm at, ChatGPT, and I'm just in the regular, I'm not using any of the GPTs. Maybe this might look a little bit different than the ChatGPT you might have seen. I mean, you might have 3.5, which still doesn't look much different here. That is just a different context window and its output is slightly different, but it still works with ChatGPT 3.5. What might be different is that I have like folders set up. I have a bunch of folders so I can put my chats into folders and I can, keep that in there. And I can also search my conversations, which I really, really love. That is not available if you just have ChatGPT, but I'm pretty certain that you can get this as a free plugin. It was free for me, and I'm pretty sure it's free for 3.5, is Superpower ChatGPT. And there is a paid version of this. I don't pay for it. I just use this version. What that means if you don't pay for it is that here my folders are set up. And this is where I primarily do any work with ChatGPT, but sometimes I'm on my laptop out in the living room when I'm hanging out with my family, and these don't sync up with my login on my laptop. Now, if I paid for this plugin, which is the Superpower ChatGPT, then it would sync across all my devices, but it's not that serious for me. This is where I do most of my stuff anyways. And I love being able to put my conversations into folders. I love being able to search my conversations. Those are the two biggest things. When I am on my laptop, I'm not usually digging into my story as much. I'm just playing around and doing other things. So this is where I'm going to start, and I'm just going to start in just the regular ChatGPT. I'm not using a GPT or anything custom. And I'm just going to say, can you help me write a prompt to give you to extract an exhaustive character list to include main characters, side characters, and minor characters. Now, is there a difference between these? I don't know. I don't know what it's going to understand, so I'm just putting this all in here. Minor characters that aren't named. Please include in the prompt any names associated with each character, like nicknames, as well as any given titles. All right, I didn't say where to get it from. Can you help me write a prompt to give you to extract an exhaustive character list, from my novel to include main characters, side characters, minor characters that aren't named. Okay, I think this looks good. Let's see what it gives me. Why is it doing it like this? This is kind of weird. Okay, it says to prepare the list in a tabular format with columns for character name, nickname, titles. I don't think I really need a tabular list, so I would change that. Okay, so I'm going to take this. I like a lot of what it has here. So then I go over, so I have a series Bible where I keep everything, and I have an AI prompting sheet. This is kind of where I have my character analysis prompt, but here let's add this new one. And I like to keep it. You never know if you might lose something one day from here, so I try to keep it. And then it also allows me to change anything that I want to change. All right, so this prompt for extraction, objective. I don't know that I want to say objective. Please compile a complete list of all characters appearing in the novel, including main characters, side characters, minor characters, even those who are not named. Okay, so it actually puts like what are the differences between main characters, side characters, minor characters. Full name, nicknames, titles. I do not need a description of their role in the story. That's not what I asked for. Likes to give you stuff you don't ask for sometimes. So let's take that down. I mean, roles, asking for roles, I do have that in my character analysis. So, and I don't want it right now. I just need this in order to identify the character to put into the character analysis prompt. That's all I'm looking for. So I don't need more. Include side characters, significant interactions with main characters or influence the plot. Include their full names, nicknames, titles, along with a short description of the relationship. I do not need that. Again, I just needed characterless. Minor characters. Catalog all minor characters, including those who do not have names. For named minor characters, list their names, nicknames, and titles. For unnamed characters, provide a descriptive identifier, the innkeeper, the gilded lily, or mysterious cloaked figure. I like that. Okay, we'll keep with that. Know any scenes, crowds, any scenes that involve groups or crowds where individuals are not specifically named. Describe these groups briefly. Okay, I do have stuff like this occasionally. I don't need it for my character analysis, but it still could be useful to have a list of these, especially if, like, maybe one day I want to go and pull out one of these soldiers in the Royal Guard and make his own story or something. I don't know. Recurring themes and roles, mentioning recurring non-individual entities or collective roles that are personified in the story. The High Council, the Four Spirits. I do have a High Council. Oh, but not in this book. Let's go ahead and keep that. I don't know what it's going to give me as an output on this one for my novel, but I'm curious to see what I have there. All right, proceed chapter by chapter or by narrative arc. Ensure no character is overlooked. Use a search function in your writing software to find mention specific. Does an AI have a search function in their software? This is interesting. I don't know if it does, but I'm gonna keep it in there because I'm just curious what that's going to give me. Prepare the list in a tabular format with columns for a character name. I don't want columns. Let's do it. Bulleted list. Separated by main, side, and minor characters, etc. I don't know if it'll take the etc. to mean what I mean it to be, but in this case, any other separation that it wants to give me. And I don't want to give it an alternative format, so we're just going to get rid of that. Okay. I think I have a prompt that I hope will work for what I need. Okay, so let's go ahead. We'll highlight all of this. And we can even look, see how many words this is. So it is 239 words. And then here is where we're going to do this. Now this is Google AI Studio, and over here is the model that you can choose from. And this is free. You don't have to pay for this. You can just go to this URL. I will put it into the description box below, so if you want to do this, you can. Now, this does not save your chats as is. You have to do more work. If you type something in here and you do anything and then you close out, it's going to ask you, are you sure you want to close out? Because everything will be lost. So I go down here. This goes to my regular account that my browser set up on. So I am going to go to my books account, which is where I keep all of my information for my books. Okay, from this here, once I put something in here, then I can hit save up here and it saves to my Google Drive. And it actually, so Google AI Studio, and it saves everything in here. So these ones here, what they do is they just reopen the dialogue, the whole thing. They just open a new window, what you just saw, but with everything in there that I was doing. Okay, so now I'm gonna come over here and I'm going to put in my prompt. I am going to paste it as plain text, so it puts some of these breaks in here where I have breaks. If you don't do it as paste as text, if you just, Control V or paste it pastes it as one huge block of text. And research indicates that blocks of text actually do not have as a good as a output than if you break up your prompt when you give it to the AI. So I definitely want to have those breaks in there. So I am just going to spend a little bit of time cleaning this up and putting these breaks in here. Now here, I want to put a space because I do want to put some spaces in between the different parts of this. But if you hit enter, it will just start running this, and I don't have my novel in here yet. So I am not going to hit enter. Instead, to put a space in here, you hit shift and then enter. All right, so cleaned up. And I don't think I mentioned this, the output format. This is a very, very good thing to have when you ask the AI to give you anything, is tell it what output format you want. You could tell it to put it into a table. It will put it into a table for you. All right, here is my novel. The sunstone and the hybrid prints. Now this one, I don't put as much effort into putting all the right spaces and breaks into, because that'd be a lot to do for any novel. And this is a novella. It's 27,000 words, but still it is a lot. I am just going to paste it in there. I'm still going to paste it as plain text. So it puts its own breaks in there, but they're kind of awkward looking in some cases. Oh, I did want to point out 322 tokens is what's used down here out of the 1 million that you can have. Let me get this in here and we will run it, and it will take a little bit of time to run it all. So we'll let go, and it does put the time down here. It's really cool. All right, see here too, now it shows you how much you've used of your 1 million tokens. That means I still have a whole lot more that I can do, and there's a lot more that I can ask the AI about. And so I plan to use this same area here to do my character analysis, because I don't have to put the whole novel in again. Why did it stop? Oh, I know why. Okay, it stopped. You're gonna have this little triangle almost every time if you've got anything that is sexually explicit or violence or anything like that. And there's both violence and sexually explicit things in this novella. So, and it says here medium, so that's why it stopped. So I forget, this setting does not stay. So every time I come in here, I have to edit the safety settings over here. Every time I have to change these. And like I said, it doesn't stay. When I leave out and I come back in, it goes right back to the setting that it was at. And now I'll say, please continue. Hopefully it will finish up the rest of this. And I do remember now I did stop before when I forgot to change the safety settings. Okay, it did continue. It picked up with side characters. It did not finish what it was writing here with the main character list. And maybe Sigilla was the last one. I still didn't finish it. So I want to say thank you. You did not complete that main characters list. Could you provide a complete list? We'll see what it does. I think it might have just continued because it looks like it's all the same. I think it might have just continued where it left off. Wow, that's pretty smart. I did not expect it to pick up where it left off, and that's exactly what it did. Good. Okay, so now we have all the characters. And, like I said, you can save this. Like I can save this now. Sunstone and the hybrid prints. Character list. And saving it. Now I can go back over here and go Google AI Studio, and now it's there. So I can pull it back up. In this case, what I would normally do is I would head into copying this information and putting it into a Google Doc to clean up. Because even though it looks like, I'm kind of just looking this over, it looks like it's right, you still want to check it over. So I will copy it over and I will go through this line by line, make sure it's right, and add anything else that I might want. And to be honest, I really didn't need all the information that was here. Just knowing some of the nicknames and stuff would have been fine with me. Okay, so now I have my character list. And the reason why you want this character list, because with the character analysis that we're going to do next, the first time I did it, I put the prompt in there for the character analysis and I said to do it for all characters. And it came back and it said it was too much to do at one time, that it would do the two main characters. And I thought, okay, that's fine. And so then I just had to rerun that prompt over and over and over again for each character, but then I really needed a character list when it was starting to get, I have a lot of characters in A Curse of Scales and Feathers. So I really needed a list to work off of because I didn't remember even everybody who was in my book, especially since I'm like done with that book. It's already out and I'm in the next book and I'm deep in my next book. So I'm like, oh, who else was in there? So this is really, really important for me to do it, to be able to do the next part. Okay, so it has my novella in here. I don't have to put the novella again. I can go ahead and go on to the next thing. And we're sitting at 37,300 tokens used of 1 million. So I still have a lot more to go. All right, so I want to show you guys then, what I did for my character analysis. And this was actually the very first thing that I did when I was trying this out, which was give me a character analysis, because I knew that I messed up the eye color of the one character. And I wanted my character analysis. I mean, analysis sounds kind of deep, which parts of it are, but some of it was just a physical description was what I was looking for. And unfortunately, I do not have the saved conversation from that first time of doing the character analysis because I didn't understand how to log in and save it to my drive. I don't have that to show you guys, but what I do have is what I actually wrote to the ChatGPT, and this was my original prompt. So again, you can just ask the AI, well, what should I give you to get what I'm looking for? So I wrote for my fantasy romance novel, I'd like to identify all characters in the book along with their personality traits, physical appearance, relationships, mannerisms, words they use the most, their favorite phrase to say about the gods, because I try to give all of them their own way of talking to the gods, or they'll say for the love of the sun god, or if someone's praying, or they may pray to the sun god in the Seven Sleepers. I kind of like them having their own thing that they like saying, because there's a lot of different ways that they could talk to their gods. So I wanted that in there and more. And usually this and more, I would get more. Like you guys just saw when I asked about the prompt for the character list, and I wanted name, nicknames, and titles, and it added in there their roles. I was like, I didn't ask for that. And that's what usually ChatGPT does. It gives you more. So I said, and more, yes, go ahead and give me more. It didn't though, so that's why I'm laughing. I also like to know which chapter each of these things appear in. I really wanted that so I would know where to reference stuff back to again, but it really didn't understand the chapter breakdown for some of my character analysis. So for my two main characters, it didn't tell me chapter by chapter, but then some of my other minor characters it did, but it's okay. I mean, I like the idea of having the chapters, but they're not as important as everything else. It says, can you write me a comprehensive prompt for you to identify every character in my book and list everything possible that appears in reference to those characters along with the chapters where to find that information. And so then it gave me this, and it gave me the things I asked for, basically their name and role, traits, appearance, relationships, mannerisms, common word phrases, favorite phrase about the gods, chapter references. And I'm like, what about on the more? Give me more. And so I just put in there what other categories could be identified for characters to add to this list. And then it gave me more to choose from. And I went through these. And man, guys, I didn't think about this one, reader impact. This was so eye-opening for me. Only because in my first book, I have two main characters, romance, two main characters, male and female. And my male, Calden, I had a certain idea of who he was and what his role was in the story. And I knew how he was going to change over the course of the story. So when I started getting reviews on the book and I got a couple of these where the readers were saying, Calden frustrated me and I'm so glad that he changed and I was rooting for him by the end, or whatever, something along these lines. But the first part, the frustration part, I was like, I don't see that. I don't know how that happens. I mean, I know he's a little bit thick-headed, but I don't know. I mean, I kind of put up there from the very beginning. I felt like I put in the beginning, here's a reason for the way he's acting. He just has to get over this hurdle. So it was kind of eye-opening for me when I read those in a way, but I was like, really? Is this, okay, maybe this is just these couple of readers. But then when I did this reader impact here, it said that. It said readers may find this character frustrating. And then they may be able to sympathize with him as he changes or whatever it said. But I was like, so even the AI picks up that reader may be frustrated with this character. So I really liked this one. I really liked getting this one. It was not something I ever would have thought about asking for. Some of these other things I kind of did think about, like the cultural mythological references, I thought about doing that as a separate thing. Influence on other characters. Again, I was thinking about a separate thing for this one. One I didn't think about was alignment and moral compass. I mean, I just felt like in my head, I was like, yeah, I kind of know what this is, but it was interesting to see what the AI pulled out of the text for my characters. And it did a pretty good job. I mean, the ones that were different than what I thought they weren't that different than what I thought. I just thought, okay, this is a good guy, this is a bad guy, bad guy. They're more compass pointing towards good or evil. But there were some, I mean, I don't feel like I write morally gray characters in any way, at least not in my first book. And it didn't use the word morally gray, but it did use some terms I was like, oh, well, this one's mostly good, but it has some actions that are questionable. And I was like, oh, okay. So anyways, I thought a lot of this was interesting. So I copied all this and I did put this into a document, and I decided to add the name of my book within the actual prompt itself. But what I did find out, because, like I said, I put in for all characters, like, this says for all characters, and it didn't do all the characters. So I realized, okay, I need to put in just one character at a time. So I know I started this on my second book, A Curse of Wings and Gems, but I do want to do this on my novella, and we'll do it on the first main character. And since we already have pronouns in here for her, then we will do the female main character, Adria. And this also has an output. Ensure the analysis is organized by each section, representing a holistic view of their narrative journey and thematic importance. Utilize direct quotes, narrative descriptions, and critical interpretations to support the character profiles, maintaining an organized format for clarity and ease of reference. And it does a really good job with this. So I've got all my characters. Now I'm going to start doing this character analysis on all the characters. I've done this with all of A Curse of Scales and Feathers. I haven't finished A Curse of Wings and Gems, but I haven't actually finished that book either. I just wanted to get a kind of a pulse of what the AI was picking up from my characters with the character analyses for a book that wasn't finished yet. And so I was happy with what I saw, and it actually did give me some insight on Edmar, which is my main male character in the second book. But what I would say is that, for your major characters, your main characters, you're going to get a lot of this information that you're asking for from the prompt. But when it comes to your side characters, and especially like your more minor characters, that there's not going to be as much returned, which is just fine because, they don't have as much about them in the book. All right, let's go ahead and put this in here. Again, I'm going to paste as plain text, so it has some of this breakup in here. If you don't paste as plain text, it does not break it up, and it makes it all just one big huge block. And then I'm also going to put some spacing in here to separate these out. I'm just going in here and I'm hitting Shift, Enter. If there's a better way to do this, I do not know it. So maybe you are smarter than me when it comes to this. So I've got it all in there, and let's go ahead and run it. So it says role protagonist and anti-hero. And I think that's interesting because I developed Adria with this idea that she was kind of not the hero. Like, she's a pirate. She doesn't mind killing people or stealing things. But in this case, in this story, she is stealing an object in order to heal herself because she has a skin disease that doesn't allow anyone to touch her, and all she wants is a hug from her mom. She's very relatable in that aspect, but not necessarily always the hero. So I really like that it picked that up. Well, and it did give me some chapters. Look at that. I haven't always got that with some of the other analyses that I've run. I love that it broke this down. There are a few of these character analyses that it did not break it down like this. And I've thought about rewriting that section of the prompt, but if, worst comes to worst, all I have to do is just go back in there and say, can you give me a complete breakdown and appearance of X character? So I could just do a separate prompt that's just on this, because there are a few of my characters that it did not give me like the eye color. And of course, since you know that I started doing this because eye color is important, I need to make sure that I have the right eye color for all of these different characters. Hides her hands. Oh, you know what? Okay, this is different. Mannerisms, hides her hands. Due to her lesions on her hands, Adria often keeps them concealed within her sleeves. That is not something that I purposely did. I mean, she does cover herself up, all of herself, except for like the neck up, because she has a magical stone on her neck that stops the disease from spreading upward. And so she stays covered up most of the time. That's interesting that it picked out just the hands and keeps them concealed within her sleeves. I did not realize I did that. Alignment, moral compass. Here we go. Adria operates within a gray area of morality. So he doesn't say morally gray, but that's what that is. While she's not inherently evil, she's willing to lie, steal, and manipulate to achieve her goals. However, she also demonstrates compassion, loyalty, and a desire to protect those she cares for. It's right on what I was hoping to do for her. I'm glad I was successful. If you have like a certain idea of who your character is and you're trying to get them to be that character, you're trying to get them to be this ideal that you thought of, and you put it in here, this would give you a good idea if it is what you thought you were doing. So I love that this does this. Again, that caveat's there. Anything you put in here can be used for training data. Again, for me personally, I'm not worried about it, but it may be a concern of yours, and so this might not be something you want to do. Totally understandable. Reader impact. Adria is a complex and relatable character who evokes empathy and admiration. See, that relatable character is what I was going for. Admiration despite her flaws. Her journey story of overcoming adversity, finding love, and confronting difficult choices resonates with readers and invites them to contemplate themes of resilience, self-acceptance, and the pursuit of happiness. That's exactly what I was going for. So yeah, so I would just continue going through this. Personally, I would take this and I'm going to put it into her own character sheet, and then I would go ahead and run the prompt again, but I would do it on the next person, which I'd probably move to Leanne, who is the male protagonist. Anyways, I have taken up a lot of your guys' time. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope this was helpful for you. And if you have any questions, ask me down below in the comments and I will be sure to answer. Thank you everyone for joining me today, and happy writing.